Welcome to the live stream. For those of you who just saw me on the No Other Land live stream, I'm here. Thank you for joining us again. For those of you who are joining me now and missed that other live stream, it'll be available for you to watch afterwards. Again, sorry for the way things ended up getting scheduled. I had scheduled No Other Land as well as a film club on the Stephen Heiner channel called God Complex for last week, but there were some scheduling mishaps on my part, not on your part, and that led to what happened today, which is a back-to-back Palestine Bookshelf Film Club discussion. And today we're going to be discussing the Hind Rajab Foundation. Before I do so, I want to remind everybody that we have stickers available now to support the Hind Rajab Foundation. So we have one here. You can see "End the Occupation." For those who are unfamiliar with the watermelon concept, the Palestinian flag is outlawed in the Palestinian territory. So the Palestinians, in typical resistance style, pick a watermelon. Watermelon has all the colors of the Palestinian flag. But the Israelis can't outlaw watermelons because that would be stupid for their part. They know that. So they just have to put up with it. So a watermelon is a sign of resistance, a non-violent sign of resistance. And then I have these stickers here, one "End the Occupation" and the other "From the River to the Sea." And these are separate stickers. So this little Palestine bookshelf sticker is its own sticker. And the reason it's printed this way, I've always have pet peeves about stickers where they're cut around and then you try to take the sticker off and it's really difficult. So I made sure these are cut in a way that make these stickers easy to take off. So if you go to palestinebookshelf.org/stickers, I should probably put a link in the description for that. Give me one moment. I'll type that in. bookshelf.org/stickers. So that link is there in the chat. And 100% of the proceeds will go to the Hind Rajab Foundation. Now, what is the Hind Rajab Foundation? Glad you asked. That is what today's film club is about. For some reason, Al-Jazeera always does a great job of publicizing their documentaries, but for whatever reason, this documentary was 100% in Arabic, and I could only find it on the Al-Jazeera Arabic channel. And which is fine because I always watch Arabic documentaries with the subtitles on anyway, but I was surprised that it wasn't on their English channel with the subtitles or even with the Arabic dubbing removed, because 90% of the people he interviews them in English. So it's a primarily English documentary, which is then dubbed in Arabic, and then we don't see the documentary on the English channel. In any case, there's a link to it in the description if you didn't have a chance to watch it. I think it's 52 minutes. It's not even an hour, and it's really revelatory. So it starts by telling us who Hind is, because if we're going to talk about the foundation that bears her name, and it's interesting, they refer to her over and over as the martyr Hind Rajab. And this is something consistent with Palestinian ways of thought and conducting themselves. They refer to the people who die as martyrs. They don't. If in the West we have a different conception of martyrs, either related to religion or to a cause, that's understandable. What you have to realize is anyone who dies in Palestine is considered a martyr because they are in some way resisting the occupation. However that might have been, they could have been resisting the occupation by just going to school. In Hind's case, she was just being evacuated. The Palestinians were told to evacuate. She was in Gaza City, and they were in a civilian car, and they were evacuating. So in any case, Hind and her family, January the 29th, 2024, they are trying to evacuate, and they are stopped with gunfire, and the family in the car is trying to call out for help, and they're unsuccessful in getting help. And instead, what we hear on camera, sorry, not on camera, we hear the audio of it. We're watching it obviously on camera, but we hear the audio of the family being killed. So Hind is in the car, the 6-year-old girl is in the car, and we hear the gunfire and the screams. And the next thing we hear, it must have been a few moments later, Hind picks up whatever mobile phone. Miraculously, the mobile phone wasn't shot, because then we would have never heard this story. Because if the mobile phone is killed, Hind just gets shot. But she manages to get on the phone, the 6-year-old girl, this brave. This girl says they're all dead. These are all her relatives in the car with her. And she then talks with someone, I'm scared. It's getting dark. There's a tank next to me. Can I be helped? And um and obviously some medics get dispatched there. They don't talk about that story so much. I think they just want to get you oriented. As important as Hind's story was, they wanted to tell you what the foundation is doing on her behalf. But in any case, they're able to trace the 335 bullets that were shot into the car. They're able to do a forensic analysis and look at the direction of the bullets. Where did these bullets come from? There's no satellite image of the time of the attack. So we have satellite overflight from before and after Hind is killed. So we can't see tanks in that footage, but we have the audio from the Red Crescent in which we hear the rapidity of the fire. And this is where it gets a little CSI. For those of you who follow true crime, I'm not necessarily one of those, but I'm familiar with some of the shows. My father, God rest his soul, was very much into those sorts of procedural crime shows. And in this investigation, they tell you, if we listen to the audio, we can tell the time between the shooting and when we hear the waves on the thing, and they can also tell the rapidity of the burst. So if I wrote down 750 to 900 rounds per second, that is the firepower that was put into that vehicle to give us 335 bullet holes. These big bad IDF soldiers, the heroes of Israel, attacked an unarmed civilian vehicle that was not. They lied and said there was some exchange of gunfire and they were trying to shoot at militants. There's no evidence of any militants being anywhere near. These were civilians that were evacuating as they were told to do by the IDF. And the IDF, because they love to kill as many civilians as possible, they saw a car. Oh, this is easy pickings. Because they're cowards. They couldn't actually face. We saw what happened when they faced Hezbollah in Lebanon. They got murdered. When they go up against real men who are armed with weapons in an even scenario, they get killed because they don't have the same motivation that these people do. But when they go up against civilians who are unarmed, well, of course, they get to be the big bad Israeli soldiers. Now, what was wonderful about this documentary is these people are named. So the Hind Rajab Foundation is based in Brussels, and it uses open sources as well as leaks and whistleblowers to prosecute legal cases against Israelis with dual nationality. Obviously, you can't prosecute Israelis who don't have any other nationality because Israel's never going to extradite people. Remember, Israel's the largest haven of pedophiles in the entire world, right? Think of that. What else? That's a separate conversation for a separate time. But there's a bunch of pedophiles who are housed in Israel so that they can't be extradited. So if you try to accuse the Israeli government, say, oh, so-and-so has committed a crime, we want him extradited, the Israelis will tell you, we don't care. But if someone has Argentinian nationality or German nationality or Belgian nationality, then you can bring this person to trial in their own country as a citizen of that country regarding this idea of universal jurisdiction. Now, this is a legal theory. It's not, you could say, natural law or even settled international law. But it's a theory that the Hind Rajab Foundation is testing. And in accord with the quote from Basel from my last live stream, I was quoting from No Other Land. Post-it note. I was quoting from No Other Land. The idea of a single drop of water isn't going to change things, but if the drop of water keeps coming over time, it will change things. And so one prosecution, two prosecutions, 100 prosecutions isn't going to necessarily fix it, but it will create pressure. And that's what the foundation is trying to do. The executive director, his name's Diab Abu Jaja, I think his name is, and very professional, very calm, and you can see his focus and you can see his clarity. We are trying to create pressure. And we also want to make it clear, you can't just commit a war crime and then go to carnival one week. This is what was happening with, was it Adi Carney? So they had a gentleman named Adi Carney who posted photos and videos of the genocide and then went to go experience carnival in Brazil. Oh, I'm going to have a good time. Hind Rajab Foundation and other people put together a dossier against him. He then flees to Peru. And he was questioned before he fled to Peru, but the Brazilians assured him they would let him go. So that was through Israeli pressure through their embassies. Don't take one of our nationals, otherwise you're going to be in trouble with us. And no countries have really had the courage to stand up to the Israelis in this way. So he fled to Peru, and they're trying to pursue a legal case against him in Peru. And we talked to a German prosecutor who is trying to bring a case against. Who are they trying to bring a case against? Is it Adi Carney? It may be. But the idea is this creates, or is it the Shimon Zuckerman? I have this pile of different cases that I'm looking at. But what you have to understand is they're exploiting this thing that has never really been thought about by people before. Sometimes it just takes a crime like what happened with Hind for people to get galvanized. Is if I'm an Israeli with another passport, then I might be able to put pressure on that other country. Israel's never going to hold this person accountable, but maybe with the right amount of pressure and tactics, I can bully that other country into holding him accountable, because they're never going to volunteer to hold him accountable. And so we have names that are listed. We know now who was in charge. We have the 401st Armored Division, which was commanded by Beni Aharon. The 52nd Armored Battalion, which is commanded by Colonel Daniel Ella. These are known as the Breakers. This is this battalion, this armored battalion. They were among the first in October 2023. They were notorious in Gaza. And they also led an attack on Al-Shifa Hospital, again, against not just unarmed men, women, and children, but people in hospital beds, people who are paralyzed. These are the big, bad Israeli soldiers, the heroes of Israel, people who shoot women and children and people in hospital beds. So within we have to keep going. If you understand how military structure works, you have these different divisions coming all the way down to a company level, then platoon level, and then even a squad. So here we're looking at a company. The company level is commanded by Schonglass. He runs this company called they call themselves Vampire Empire. It's not even a Hebrew name. They use an English name. And listen to the name, Vampire Empire. This is who these people are. They name themselves. This wasn't a title given to them by someone else. They call themselves Vampire Empire. What does that tell you about who these people are? They see themselves as vampires. We didn't have to call them that. They're bloodsuckers. And the commander, so I think either Colonel Daniel Ella or Beni Aharon would say in Hebrew interviews where he thinks no one's listening to Hebrew, I can speak freely. He talks about Vampire Empire not listening to orders. He says they're crazy guys. They do what they want. So he's admitting in Hebrew that these people are out of control. So that's one example. And we know now, so we know the battalion and we know the company that led the attack on Hind. And it is likely that Schonglass is the one that gave the command to kill Hind and her family. Obviously, he didn't know her name or didn't know who they were, but he knew they were civilians and he knew they were unarmed and he knew they were in a car and he knew he could just kill them. And he did. That's who they are. Shimon Zuckerman is someone who published material of himself and the destruction of Kuza. Once again, going beyond the pale, if you say, okay, genocide is difficult to prove, okay, but destruction of civilian infrastructure is not difficult to prove. If you supply the materials yourself, that's how arrogant these people are. They're so confident in the fact that they will face no punishment because they're the chosen people and Israel will pressure anybody who dares to question them about anything and call them anti-Semitic. So yeah, it's anti-Semitic to prosecute war crimes. So Shimon Zuckerman takes photos and videos. And you might have seen these early on in the conflict where, people would be smoking and it would look like an action movie where the thing blows up behind them and they're just trying to look cool. And he posted this and people have called this a war influencer or a genocide influencer. I didn't realize that's a name, but it's totally appropriate. And what's clear from his social media footage is that the bombing of Kuza, with all the context we have, the radio traffic, as well as the publication of these social media. Remember, these people are telling on themselves. This isn't, we had to hack into their phones to find out. They posted it on social media because they're proud of what they do. They're proud of murdering men, women, and children. They're proud of destroying their homes. They cheer when they demolish homes as if they've accomplished something great, when all they did was roll over unarmed people and then set the explosive charges. They didn't do anything heroic. And it's one of the most cowardly things they could have ever done in their lives. They will know that. The rest of the world knows that they are cowards. And so, if I understand correctly, is he in Brigade 8129, Battalion 551? So this was related to the Kuza, the village of Kuza, which was completely wiped off the map. And there's fear now. So a lot of these accounts have gone private as it's become obvious to the Israelis they can no longer brag about what they're doing online because it will be captured, or if they do, it has to be a private account and only shared with their friends and family who would never betray them. But it turns out there are whistleblowers inside Israel who are feeding information to the foundation and to other places. And at the end of the documentary, we see that while nothing has happened yet from what the foundation has done, even in this landmark case where they published the names of all these people just a few days ago, I did a very short film club on the killing of Hind Rajab, the bird's eye view Al-Jazeera documentary. It's about 10 minutes. If you go back one or two film clubs in the live tab of the channel, you'll be able to see it and watch it for yourself. And the foundation published that dossier a couple weeks ago, made a big splash, and they're going to continue to try to do that. So the film ends with things moving forward in Belgium and Canada and the UK. And we go back to the executive director of the foundation. And he says, listen, something is not necessarily going to happen today or tomorrow, but we have to be patient. Justice takes time to happen, but we're not closing the books on this, and we're just going to keep going. And as I said, the Israelis are not only taking precautions in terms of not posting, they're taking precautions in terms of making sure that if an Israeli is in trouble in a foreign country, they get them spirited away. One in particular was in Cyprus, and he's talking on social media, and he says, oh, I look like a fugitive. He's like, oh, no, I'm a celebrity. I'm a war celebrity. And Israel takes him on a private plane and puts him in the British Air Force Base on Cyprus. So the British have retained, I think, at least 2 Air Force bases since they ceded Cyprus, allowed Cyprus to declare independence. And then obviously from there back to Israel. So one of the ways Israel is acting against the foundation is making sure that they can get these people out before they get prosecuted. And there's a chilling effect on Israeli soldiers then traveling. We'll say, I can't travel in this country where I have another passport or within that zone because maybe I'll have a case against me. The other side is the Israelis killing witnesses. So if you're going to put forward a case, you have to have witnesses for your case. And so if a case is published, sometimes the people are named, and the Washington Post named, I think, a family. And I think later that week or the next week, the child who was one of the witnesses was executed. Who do you think did it? You think it was just some random crime, or do you think that the people who would be most threatened by his testimony killed him? I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that. So is there anyone else? The Yuval Vagdani case was the first case in Brazil, and effectively they don't want arrest warrants issued. So the minute that happens, a precedent is set. So Israel's not going to have a big public fight about this. They're just going to move their soldiers out and tell them not to travel. If the soldier does get caught, they're going to put pressure on the local government and then try to get the kid out of town. But if someone is actually arrested, not just brought in for questioning, which I think either is what happened to Yuval Vagdani or the Adi Carney when he was in Brazil, and then he just didn't escape. Sorry, he wasn't even taken into custody, so you can't escape. He just left Brazil for Peru. That if someone is actually arrested, I think the first step is Mossad or Israel would try to break him out of jail. So even then, they wouldn't try to negotiate. Normally, if the pressure is unsuccessful, the person is still arrested. It looks like it's heading for a trial. Israel will try to get this person out another way rather than go to trial. Because if you go to trial, there's discovery, there's cameras, there's testimony. Israel doesn't want any of that. They don't want the world to know what the foundation and the people who follow the foundation know is we have evidence of the crimes from the perpetrators. It's very rare in a war crime situation that you have evidence from the perpetrators. Usually you have to piece together evidence from witnesses and other people, but these people commit war crimes, film themselves smiling and doing war crimes, and then they upload it for clout. War influencers, genocide influencers. I mean, so for those of you who are just now joining the stream, if you haven't had a chance to, please hit the like button. That helps push the live stream out to people who subscribe to the channel, but maybe they didn't get a notification. YouTube will do that. So please do that. Even if you're watching this later, you're not watching this live, hit the like button. I don't probably do that enough. And if you join the stream later, you didn't have a chance to see me plug these stickers. This is a fundraiser for the Hind Rajab Foundation so that they can be assisted in their work. I don't expect them to do all their work without us helping them. So I have a simple square and the occupation sticker with a watermelon, and then 2 of Palestine itself with the colors of the flag and the occupation. And as I said, these are 2 different stickers. So this one's just the Palestine bookshelf, our own logo. Can put that somewhere, and maybe you put this on a water bottle, maybe you put this on a notebook, but it starts a conversation. People say, where'd you get that sticker? And you can talk about our work if you want, or you can talk about the fact, say, I bought it as a fundraiser for the Hind Rajab Foundation. I'd love to tell you about the Hind Rajab Foundation. You know, that's where we primarily want this to go. If they come to Palestine Bookshelf, that's great, but we are donating 100% of the profits to the foundation. So we want people to see the foundation's work, get convicted by it, and then decide they want to support them. And one of the ways they can support them is by buying these stickers. So I'll need to be continuing to talk to them because I bought quite a few and I need to sell them so we can make a profit, so we can give that profit to the foundation. So if you haven't bought one already, please consider buying one. They're great to share with people, raise awareness, and start conversations about Palestine. All right, we've got some chats here. Thank you, JW Claw. Philippi, hi, hello. Anon, hello. Zionist war crimes. I'm sure that you probably mentioned this as I was talking about some of what they've been doing. Hello, Shaheen. Hello, Andrew. They are terrific killers, as Trump would put it. Yes, the best killers, the most amazing killers. Trump is a champion of Zionism. That's who he is. He's been bought by Miriam Adelson, but he really didn't need to be bought. His son-in-law's a Jewish real estate developer. He wants to do that. That's where the money is. There's no money with the Palestinians. The man is motivated by legacy and money and power, and the Palestinians can't offer him any of that. All they can offer him is morality. And this is a man with no deep moral convictions. That's why if the ceasefire fails, he doesn't care. He's only doing it for the gram. Everything that the president does is for clout, is for photo opportunities. That's who he is. He's a photo op president. He's not interested in any of the hard work required to do something. So I'm going to go get a picture with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Here's my photo op. But I'm not actually interested in working out something that would bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. That would take work. That would take reading books. He's allergic to books. Books are like a nuclear weapon against him. He doesn't like reading. He doesn't like learning. He just goes on gut. And whatever his opinion is the opinion of the last person who talked to him. So Putin talks to him, he thinks one way. Zelensky talks to him, he thinks another way. The problem is there's nobody from the Palestinian side that he'll listen to. So he only hears different shades of Zionism, militant Zionism versus maybe soft Zionism, but it's all Zionism. Sorry for going off on a tangent about Orange Man, but that's the reality of things. If there's no other questions in the chat, I will let you all go and encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to watch the documentary. As I said, it's short. Almost all the time I say that. Sometimes it's as short as the one that we saw on Hind was 10 minutes long. So sometimes it really is very short, but watch it, get educated, pass it around to people. It's more of a procedural documentary. As I said, if you don't know that there's a Hind Rajab Foundation and you don't know what their work is, this is the perfect documentary for you. But obviously, the entry point into the Hind Rajab Foundation is knowing Hind's story. So, got a couple more chats. Thanks, Stephen. And that's not true about Trump not liking books. He likes holding the Bible upside down for the photo op. All right, Sylvia, I stand corrected. You're right. He likes books when they're available for a photo op. If you don't know about that, I'm sure you can just Google Trump holds Bible upside down outside church or something like this. Oh, that's a different discussion for another time. Thank you all for coming on the chat. As I said, please consider the sticker fundraiser. You can find that. I put it inside the live chat, but also I'll try to put a link in the description when this finishes. It's just at PalestineBookshelf.org, and you'll see a little starburst that says stickers. Otherwise, PalestineBookshelf.org/stickers. Buy some for friends and family. 100% of the proceeds will go to the Hind Rajab Foundation. Thank you. And thank you for stopping by. If you have questions, remember, just even though you missed the live, we can keep the conversation going. So when you watch this on replay, put your questions in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them in a timely manner. See you on the next Film Club.